Hello everybody, this is Alex from Clarusway. Today we're going to be talking about how to Google. So at first this might seem like a quite straightforward topic, but actually it is quite important for IT world, and whenever you encounter a problem, it is really important to know how to find out the solution using Google for that particular problem. And it is actually a skill that you have to have. It seems straightforward, but it's something that improves by time, and you get better at it after doing more of it. So we will talk about why do we need Google. First of all, we're going to begin with that because that's a point that a lot of people miss. As I mentioned in the beginning, it seems quite straightforward. Like they say, what can I learn about Google? I just type stuff in it and then I hit enter. What else can I learn about it? But actually, it is a much important topic than that. After that, we will talk about in which situations you can use Google and in which situations you actually cannot use Google, or like you can ask some other person. And then we'll talk about how to use Google the right way. So we will talk about some phrases that you can use. I will show you some sites that you can rely on when Googling, and then I will then give a couple examples on how Google is used on particular problems that you encounter in IT world when programming or creating a cloud service or any particular problem that is related to IT world. Okay, so why do I need Google? So this is really interesting because most of the people miss this out. Google is a really powerful tool, and you can find actually everything that you need from Google, because it has all the information that you need about anything. And when it comes to IT especially, the information that you can find, it's all in the Google. Every single thing is in the Google. So you have to use it. You must use it. No other person in the world is more knowledgeable than Google about everything. So that's one of the most important things. And it's really impossible for you to know everything, but Google actually knows everything. So that's a great point to notice. So there is a really rich content out there in the Google, and it's really easy to find it. Like you don't have to make some deep academic search to be able to find the solution you need. It's quite straightforward and easy to find as long as you know the right techniques to do it, and you know where to look at. And Googling is a skill that will take you to the next level. In the IT world, especially among engineers, there's a saying that says one of the biggest difference between, actually not the one of the biggest difference, but the only difference between a senior and a junior engineer is that the senior knows Googling better compared to a junior. So it will actually the thing that is going to take you to the next level, and it's a really quick skill that you can attain in short time that will take you to the next level in your IT career. And but every single body who works in IT, who's an engineer, who's a software developer or a cloud engineer, uses Google to figure out their solution. This is a really widely used thing. So people new to the IT world usually think like Googling something and finding the solution on the internet from somebody else might seem like a newbie act, or it might seem like an unethical act, like they're stealing the solution from somebody else. But actually, no. Nobody thinks like this. Everybody in the IT world is trying to help each other, trying to solve the problems that are out there, so that people can use it. So it's not anything about stealing, or it's not being newbie, because everybody does it. So here we have this meme where it says doctors say Please do not confuse your Google search with my medical degree, because people go search a lot of diseases and try to figure out what disease they might have, or what symptom is leading to what disease, and etc. And on the other hand, the programmers say, please do not confuse your Google search with my Google search, because a programmer knows how to do a Google search much better. So programmers, or in general all the IT people, have to be really good at Google searching. And then we have another meme here, which emphasizes the importance of Google search. So there's a programmer job interview. The interviewer says, do you know how to Google? They say yes, and then they say welcome abroad. Yes, this is a little bit of exaggeration, of course, but at the end of the day it is really crucial. Of course, the only thing that you need to know is not Google. That's why you're learning a lot of tools, a lot of languages, and etc. But also Googling is one of the most crucial skills that you have to have. So there are a couple settings where you can use Google. Actually, in general, it is whenever you encounter a problem that you don't know how to solve. Whenever you encounter that particular problem, you can Google it. Basically, that's the most general term. But in more detailed terms, we can split it into two. I think of it like this. And one of them is when you encounter a problem that you don't understand. So there's an error prompt that you don't understand what it says because of the technical terms, or basically you don't understand the meaning of the sentence or something like that, and you just Google that sentence. And the other option could be when you forgot how to use certain keyword, command, function, etc. So what does this mean? For example, you forgot how to create a for loop in Python for a second. Okay, that's a really basic example. When you get more advanced, you're going to be forgetting more advanced stuff, but at the beginning it's quite normal. You might forget the syntax, you might forget how it works, and etc. So you can just Google that, and we will see what further problems you may have in that context. So an example for a problem you don't understand, here we have the Python list index out of range error. As you can see, here we have a Python program, and then it gave out this error, and I don't really understand. For me, I think that this program should work fine. I think that this should work fine, and I got no idea why it's not working. And then I have this error, and I read it, and then again I don't understand list index out of range. No, I don't think so, I say, or I don't understand what it means. What does a index out of range mean? What does a range mean? I don't understand those. I just copy the error and then I just paste it to the Google. So this is one of the options where you can use Google search. So as you can see, as soon as you paste the error that you get, Google automatically pops out this simple solution right away. In more complex problems, it becomes a little harder to find it. It's not this straight away. You will have to dig a little further, but in the case of problems like these, there are like straight away couple seconds of searches will lead you to the solutions and lead you to understanding the problem you have. Another example right here we have with an EC2 instance, where you get an error saying that warning, unprotected private key file, and it says the private key will be ignored, bad permission, ignore key, and then permission denied. So what does this mean? Why is okay, I understand that the permission was denied and I was not permitted to connect to the EC2, but what does this mean in particular? I don't understand that. So what I do basically is I Google the keywords EC2 bad permission, and then straight away in the first web page that pops up, if I click that, this is Stack Overflow, which we will talk about in the upcoming slides. One of the most popular platforms where you can find your IT solutions. We have the solution right here, which says chmod 400 mykey.pem will solve their problem, and if the user does that, it will basically solve their problem. So it's quite easy. At first, you might feel like lost. I mean, permission denied. So what? Now what? What should I do? And by only thinking by yourself, you will never be able to think of this, maybe, if you're not a little advanced in Linux or using the terminal. But straight away, when you Google it, you will face with the solution. Of course, these are really basic and starter examples, but think of it like expand this to the more advanced problems that you may encounter in the problem. I'm trying to explain the mindset of Googling to you here. Okay, another concept that we have talked about where you can use Google, another problem situation, when you forget or don't know how to do something. So here, in this case, in this example we have, we don't know, the user doesn't know how to connect to the EC2 with SSH. That might happen because you're a beginner and you haven't used SSH that many times yet, so you don't remember it, how to use it. For example, in this case, if you go to one of the mentors or instructors or wait for their response until you before you Google it, they might give you a response that is going to be late. The response might come in a couple minutes, couple dozen of minutes or hours. But with Google, as you can see, you can find the solution in a couple seconds. And right there, it's like really straightforward. It's the first thing that comes into Google. There you have the solution, which is the AWS documentation. So this is how you use an SSH. As you can see, if you Google it, you straight away find it. Another example, how to trace route on terminal. So if you go into here, if you Google this, and then if you go to here, as you can see, straight away there's the solution. So never be afraid of doing this. This is not cheating, this is not unethical, this is not newbie, this is completely normal, and this really speeds you up. And this is really something convenient and everybody uses, as I have mentioned in the beginning. Okay, so there's some couple important points when it comes to Googling these particular problems. So far we've talked about what kind of problems can you encounter and then Google them to find the solution. Now I'm going to be talking about how you should do those searches. So your searches have to be atomic. What does that mean? We will see it in the upcoming slides, but in basic terms, it means that your search shouldn't be complicated. It should be simple. In most basic terms, it's like that. We will see it in the upcoming slides. You have to be precise. What does that mean? So you shouldn't broaden your search, okay? So you have to be as specific as possible. You have to use certain phrases. Those phrases will increase your accuracy when you're looking for solutions. And then have some reliable sites that you already know. What does that mean? So there are a couple sites like Stack Overflow or Geeks for Geeks or documentation sites of tools. Those sites are the best for looking for your solution in general. So whenever you Google something, Google your problem, and if you encounter one of those pages and a couple other pages, you should go with those pages, which you know that you will get the answer with a higher chance. And if you're not able to find the solution at once, you have to be alternating your sentences, which means like paraphrasing your sentences, and then finally alternating the sources. So you have Geeks for Geeks, Stack Overflow, and then the documentation. Let's say the documentation is too complicated and you couldn't find the solution from there, then you can switch to Stack Overflow source. Or if the Stack Overflow source is not addressing your issue directly, you can refer to Geeks for Geeks, and etc. So you have to be able to do that. Okay, so here's an atomic search and a non-atomic search example. So good examples are how to create a function in Python, how to multiply numbers in Python, how to divide numbers in Python. And bad example for these examples is how to create a function that takes in numbers and multiples them and divides them the result to 5 in Python. So you cannot ask everything to Google, okay? At once, especially. First, you have to be able to understand what kind of a structure you're going to be using when you're building something, and then inside that structure, the atomic parts of them can be asked to the Google if you don't know them, and that should be done one by one. Okay. In this case, if you're trying to create a function that takes in numbers and then multiplies them all together and then divides them with 5, if you want to create a function like this, you cannot Google it, okay? You have to be able to, first you have to learn how to create a function, and then maybe you will have to learn how to send parameters inside the function, so on and so forth. So your searches have to be atomic. And your searches have to be precise. What does that mean? We have the examples. The good example is EC2 connection timeout error, EC2 permission denied error. So let's say you're getting these errors and you're trying to find the solution on Google. You have to Google like this. So the machine, the context, and then the error itself, connection timeout error or whatever. And a bad example would be how to fix my connection problem in AWS. So there might be loads of connection problems in AWS. It might be about any kind of service on AWS to begin with, and then it even if it is EC2, even if you find a solution on EC2 by Googling like this, that might be one of the dozens of problems, connection-related problems to EC2. So it will be really hard to find it like this. So you have to understand your problem well, and specifically what problem you have. If you have loads of problems, you have to understand them one by one, and then atomically and specifically Google them one by one. So here are some phrases that might help you. So these are like straightforward phrases, I can say, but sometimes so like the sentences in the previous slides were a little off from that, as they were too long or they were too complicated. These are the phrases that you can do. You can just copy and paste the error you get. That's one of the most basic things you can do, and you have to do actually. If you don't know what an error means, that's the very first thing that you have to do. Google it. That's Stack Overflow. That's the very first thing you have to do, if you don't understand it, of course. So how to do something, you can ask it. How to do blah blah blah. How to create a function. How to connect to EC2 machine. I don't know, stuff like that. So how to create, pretty much similar to how to do. How to connect. All of them are like similar examples. And then you can, if there is not an error code you're getting, you just can't connect or can't do something, you can address that to Google. And then finally, if you see an error and then again there is no error code or anything like that, and you understand the error but you don't know the solution, in that case you can just say like connection error or like syntax error, I don't know, stuff like that. You can Google it like that, just the error itself and the name of the error and then the word error. Okay, and also you have to be precise. Don't forget the two other steps, of course. If you are getting an error with Python, you have to specify Python, or if you're getting an error with EC2, you have to specify that. And alternating sentences. So by using one of these sentences that I have just given an example for, you might not be able to find the solution. Maybe your problem is too advanced and you couldn't find the solution at first search with your first sentence. In that case, what you should do is you should alternate your sentences. What does that mean? Here are a couple examples we have where we are alternating these sentences. The first one, how Jenkins jobs works. Let's say you Googled that and you couldn't find the answer you were looking for. You can do this. How to use Jenkins jobs. Or you can just Google Jenkins jobs. Or you can say, what are Jenkins jobs for? Just paraphrase the sentence if you cannot find it at the first sentence that comes up into your mind. Just paraphrase it and then Google it again. Other examples we have here. How for loops work in Python. Python for loops. How to connect to EC2 instance. How to connect to EC2 instance with SSH. Connecting to EC2 instance. EC2 connection. So one of these will 100% give you the answer, but like the thing that I'm emphasizing in here is that you have to be paraphrasing and alternating the sentence. So don't always Google and force your way with a single sentence. If you're not getting the solution with that sentence, maybe there are no indexes with that sentence that is addressing your issue. Maybe that's the problem. So just change your sentence and Google it again, and then just do the other steps again, searching for other sources and just looking for them, looking inside them. And finally, we have alternating sources. Also in this part, I will talk about a couple sources that you can use, helpful sources for programming and cloud engineering especially. So here, as you can see, when you Google something, in this case it's Python can convert int object to str implicitly. So in this case I couldn't understand this problem and I just Google it. As you can see, there are like not a single source you can use for this solution. In the top, generally you will see Stack Overflow, like 80% of the time, 80-90% of the time you will see Stack Overflow. If you cannot find your solution in there, it might appear in any, other resources also. So you should also have to check them. So we have Edureka in here, which is also another popular site. Programmers Auth, also Programmers Auth, also another popular site you can use for your solution. So like Stack Overflow is not the only option, so you have to alternate between those sites. So before we finish, I will give you some of the site names that you can use for rely on, especially. I mean, as you use Google, you will get familiar with these sites on your own, but let me just give you a further boost before you start your Google journey and give you the site names. But as I mentioned, you will understand that these sites provide you with the solution most of the time. So one of them is obviously Stack Overflow, which is a site that has became a meme between the programmers and IT world. And another site that we have is Geeks for Geeks, which is also a good site for learning stuff, that like learning atomic stuff that you forgot or stuff like that. Then we have the documentations of the tools. Those are all also good. I mean, all of the tools that you're using, you have the documentation. You have the documentations of them on the internet. So you can directly Google it. For example, AWS EC2, AWS documentation, or you can Google, I don't know, Kubernetes documentation, Docker documentation. All of them have their documentations, and you can Google them. I mean, don't Google the documentation and read the documentation, but Google your problem or the thing that you would like to learn, and most probably the documentation will appear there. So that's one of the resources that you can rely on when you're looking for your solution. Okay, so that was it from me for today. We talked about how to Google for IT world. Hope it was helpful and hope it will improve your Googling skills in general. So have a good one. Goodbye.